Hello, I'm Louis. I'm an office manager at a physician's office laboratory outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm here today with Eric Arendash. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Louis. Nice to talk with you.
As you know, we met a while ago on LinkedIn. I was very impressed with your profile, background, and years of experience in the area of clinical laboratory science. I've also reviewed your website. I really like its simple and clean design, and I think it has a lot of material on there that's beneficial for practitioners in this field. I have a number of follow-up questions that I'd like to ask you today, if you've got the time for it.
I certainly do have the time, and I appreciate that you went to my website, Arendash Consulting Services.com, and checked it out.
So, first of all, what made you actually take the leap and to start up your consultancy?
So I was originally doing consulting during COVID. That initial position ended, and I was asked by a sales representative who was in the Northeast, knew about me from a prior survey when I was with CMS, and he had numerous clients throughout the Northeast corridor in the states of Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, in need of a technical expert such as myself for the laboratory. And he asked me if I would be available to provide those services in a better capacity than what the facilities were having at the time. And I said that that was a possibility and that I would need to form a business to get started in that role officially. So he offered me a client. That client had a CLIA survey in June of 2021 and needed a better person to be able to answer the questions more thoroughly than the laboratory was able to do. So I said, sure, at least I have a client to get started with. So I formed my LLC and got started.
And what would you say is the primary focus of your consulting business?
My primary focus is clinical laboratory consulting with the CLIA, the Clinical Laboratory Amendments of 1988, which mostly governs how laboratories are supposed to do business and follow requirements pertaining to the quality and accuracy of testing on human specimens obtained from the human body. And I can also do regulatory consulting pertaining to CLIA, which is also related to the CLIA Amendments of 1988. Some prefer just to say, let's do regulatory consulting for clinical lab science, or I can also be a technical consultant, which is a regulatory requirement within CLIA to have a person that has appropriate years and skill and expertise in specialties within a clinical laboratory and years of experience managing and supervising and performing the testing, where I can oversee the quality and accuracy of the work being performed in the laboratory and advise the lab director as such.
And what would you say sets your consulting business, Arendash Consulting Services, apart from other laboratory consultants?
Well, first of all, I'm a small business and a veteran-owned and operated business. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army for 10 years. I served in the First Gulf War. I was in charge of developing a laboratory from scratch out in the desert, training personnel, fulfilling all the quality requirements at the time as much as we could in a desert environment, in a wartime environment as such in Saudi Arabia, and was successful at it. So I gained an appropriate amount of expertise. I also have extreme subject matter expertise in CLIA because I worked with CMS for 20 years. In that process, I performed numerous roles, from being a federal surveyor to being a regulatory expert and a group advisor, collaborator with other medical technologists within the program to develop policies and procedures, help train state agency surveyors on new policies and procedures within the CLIA program at the time, and that were being rolled out to address the ever-changing world of clinical lab science and the testing that's being performed out there.
How did you come by your experience with CLIA specifically?
After my role in the Army, I was hired by the CLIA office to work in the Philadelphia regional office in the CLIA program. And I started in 1999 and worked all the way through 2019. And during that time, I acquired extensive knowledge about policies and procedures and the intricacies of the CLIA program, which was way beyond what I could have ever have imagined the regulations were at the time. Also, as a federal surveyor, I also participated on hundreds of surveys, ranging from routine recertification surveys, initial surveys of laboratories of all sizes and complexities, to complaint surveys and what we called federal monitoring surveys of the state agency surveyors, just to make sure that they were following the rules that the program had in place for how the CLIA surveys were to happen. So there was consistency in the processes. This extended beyond where I was stationed, which was responsible for a group of states within the Mid-Atlantic region. I was often invited to participate with other surveyors in other regions within, CMS.
So you started your consultancy business back in June 2021, if I understand correctly. What would you say have been some of your biggest accomplishments this year, recently?
My accomplishments for this year mostly involve making myself available as a laboratory director. Now there was changes by CMS to the regulations about the qualifications for laboratory director. Now it's harder for physicians to qualify as lab director in 2025 because often the schools don't provide the 1 year of experience that's required. So I do have the years of experience. Within the Army, I gained years of experience in managing and supervising high complexity testing throughout all areas of the clinical laboratory. So I thought it prudent to make sure that I was qualified as a lab director for moderate complexity testing. In order to do that, I completed a 20-hour CME course offered by the Commission on Laboratory Accreditation, COLA. I also received my certification officially from the American Medical Technologists Organization for a certified laboratory consultant, which required several references of my quality of my consulting and 3 years of experience doing consulting for the facilities. So those two were in the early part of the year, and then later on, it became apparent that I needed to get multiple state licenses. So I've obtained state licensure as a clinical laboratory scientist in the states of Florida, Louisiana, and Nevada, and I have a pending application in the state of New York. I also formalized a relationship with the National Network of Laboratory Consultants, the NNLC, to provide consulting and laboratory director services within that group, which I'm very proud of that and looking forward to that relationship growing. That's been my accomplishments in 2025.
So looking back a bit further, have you found that there's been any challenges or things that you've needed to learn in your business?
While I'm trained as a medical technologist and I have the expertise, I have the managerial and supervisory expertise to oversee laboratory testing through the Army and with CLIA. One of the most challenging aspects has been working with the clients in formalizing agreements with them. While it seems simple, there's lots of back and forth negotiation that is involved with establishing a professional service agreement or contract with them. There's various types of arrangements, and there's a meeting of the minds on what each of you are looking for. So you need to learn about how to do that effectively, which means you need to ask pertinent questions with the client. You need to listen, and you need to understand what the client's looking for and decide how best you can provide services where you as a business owner and myself as a business owner can do business with another organization and provide them with the services that they need, and each will be able to meet each other's needs as far as what they're looking for. So this has presented several challenges, mostly involving negotiating with the clients about what they're looking for, what do they consider to be value. I get that asked often as, what am I getting through your services? This has been asked a couple times. And my answer to that is really, I'm providing expertise that the laboratory in the personnel that they currently have do not possess to answer the questions and maintain the regulatory compliance that the regulations that they have to abide to require them. So they needed to hire an outside person. Now, that translates to quality. The better quality the laboratory can maintain, the more profitable the facility will be, because laboratories that have issues with quality often expend more costs. It's more costly to operate the facility. They're going through reagents and supplies and materials more. They're paying more for personnel. They don't realize that their personnel are not doing the job efficiently, appropriately, or they're even doing maintenance on the instrument. That translates to a lack of quality, which then increase costs for them to correct those problems, which leads to decrease in the profitability of the laboratory, which I think is mostly what offices are concerned about. They're concerned about the quality that they provide to their clients, which are their patients, and whether they can glean something out of running a laboratory for themselves. And I can provide that with them, and I'm open to being able to discuss how best of an arrangement to do that, whether it means I'm on site periodically, I'm on site monthly, I do 90% of the consulting remotely, I am flexible, and I have the abilities through current technology to do appropriate levels of consulting for clients remotely and or on site.